Jacob, what's happening, man? Welcome to Austin.
What's up, guys?
We were able to squeeze you in right before your flight out.
Oh, it's amazing. It's perfect timing.
Perfect.
I did a podcast this morning. I got to go to Terry's real quick, house some barbecue, and now I'm with you guys. So
amazing. And we had a great conversation with our mutual friend, Brian Mazza, and he was like, Jacob's in town. You got to try and get him. We're like, we'd love to have him if he can make it work.
Listen, what's better than one podcast, two podcasts, right?
100%.
So
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here. And we were saying before the show, sometimes with guests that are a little bit more established, we like to try and take them back to when they're our age and our level.
Yeah.
Because I'm 28, Harry's 29.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people see you as like this finished product now.
Yeah, dude.
Ton of clients, helping so many people out.
Yeah.
But then when we were reading your bio, when you were 28, I think you had just gotten fired as a derivatives analyst.
Derivatives analyst.
And it was a really, and it was a dog that kind of got you on track. So I think we'd love to hear that story.
So you see a trend with people anyhow, and I think it's especially true for men right now in America, that they're very happy in their teen years, relatively speaking, and then their early 20s. And then their mid 20s are kind of a shit show. Mm-hmm. And then happiness revives as like their later 30s. That definitely happened with me because I have a pretty like entrepreneurial story. So I went to college, did everything right. I was the first college graduate in my family. I was like, I'm never going to be poor. My background, I grew up in a town of 959 people.
Wow.
My dad was in his 20s. My mom was 15 when she became pregnant with me. My dad drank, was not really much of a role model and just not really that interested in me, just period. I'm sure looking back and like being a grown man now, I can understand it. Like you got a girl pregnant. She's like, I'm going to keep it. I'm sure it was a nightmare for him, but also too, dude, you're 20 something years old having sex with a 15-year-old. Like,
right.
So, a lot to unwrap there. And of course I'm that thing to unwrap. So kind of dealing with that and living through that. And then as I transitioned, I was crushing it. I was like, this is not going to be my life. And I was very determined. And I was wild when I was younger. And I wasn't exactly meant to sit in front of a desk. Mm-hmm. And so I did everything to not be poor. And then it kind of just unraveled. I got the girl who I was like obsessed with, like ended up breaking up with me. And that was like just, especially when you don't really have a family, that was like a major blow because that was such a major part of my social network.
Yes.
And then on top of it, it was like that 2008, 2009 time where the economy had kind of like taken a little bit of like a turn. And so at that point, like my friends, we just all went to wherever we could find jobs. Mm-hmm. So now all my friends were gone from college because we all just, every man for themselves. Girl dumped me and I just lost my job. I was in a pretty dark place, like my late 20s, and I just could not keep a job. I just was not right. And the secret is I wasn't meant to work for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm meant to work for myself.
Right.
So, but that took me a few years to really wrestle. And I think if I take it back for you guys, like how I grew up and like who I am as a person, how I saw myself really had to change. There was this aha moment where I was like, oh, you know what I got to do? I just need to become really, I know this can sound ridiculous, but I just need to become rich. And then all my problems will go away. And the reality was that all my problems would go away as a product of becoming successful. So meaning it wasn't that I became successful that my problems went away. The things I had to do in order to become successful helped all my problems go away. Like I had to be a much more buttoned up, polished, more in tune version of myself to be successful. I'd be more patient. I had to be more calculated. And those things as a product resulted in kind of like where I am today.
Can you take us through the minutia of actually figuring out what you were supposed to be doing? Because we've both sat behind the desk before.
Yeah, dude.
It's challenging when you're not meant to be there. And I think a lot of people have to go through that to realize what's on the other side. But most people are just like afraid to take the step. So just curious, like, what did that feel like going through? Obviously, I'm sure it was stressful, but like, what were the things that you were doing to like test out what you were really supposed to be doing?
So here's first and foremost what happened. When I grew up I just didn't have a lot of opportunity. I was in that very small town. I had a dad who just would make fun of me for playing with action figures, was just very harsh on me in general. There was nothing abusive. He just was not interested. Like I remember I had a cooking set as a kid. He owned a restaurant and he'd be like, why is he doing that? It's not real. And I'm a little kid playing with the cooking set. He just was very, very hard on me. And I think, and when he did bother to see me, and I think out of that and how I saw myself, that I kind of had to like change that narrative a little bit. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be successful. So I was the first college graduate, went there. And so my whole life, I was like really trying to fit a circle into a square peg. And I was getting cues from people around me, like who were like, hey, this, like I would sit down with people like who work in finance and they're like, have you thought about something else? Like people who are like friends who were actually like trying to mentor me. And I just wasn't listening to them. I was determined to fit into that peg, right? Even though I wasn't intended for it. And so what ended up happening is here I am, I'm working at Citigroup. And I'm like casually during lunch, like going downstairs and bench pressing 315 and doing like, supersetting that with like rowers and like things like the concept rower and stuff like this. And I'm walking through the bathroom and every man looks scared to death of me, like afraid to make eye contact. And I'm eating my bison at my cubicle with like my sweet potatoes and people being like, what are you eating? I'm like, bison. So I was just ignoring all of the classic signs. And on the flip side, when I was growing up, like what I gravitated to was really the YMCA, like going there and lifting. Like a lot of people, like they have a sport or something like that. I would play sports, but more because I thought, okay, well, if I lift, I'm supposed to play a sport. That's the only reason you lift if you play. But the reality was this was before kids would go to the gym just really to lift. Like you were kind of like, now these days, like anybody's in college, like most people are working out because of Instagram.
100%.
Like back when I went there, like the kids who were really into weightlifting who didn't like play a sport, they were kind of fringe, right? So I got really into the gym and that was really my cue. What ended up happening is I got fired from the job. I didn't have anything going on. And I was like, damn, dude. I was like, then what happened, I was in another relationship and this girl was just not the right person, but she was a friend and we ended up living together and she's a really sweet girl. And when we were breaking up, I knew we were going to break up and there was no like real connection. We were like more like friends, but it was a rebound from the last relationship. And I went and I rescued a dog and I got this dog and I rescued him. And I was like, I remember the first night I had him home, there was a thunderstorm and he came running and he just jumped up into my lap. And I was like, fuck, I was like, it's not just me anymore. You know what I mean? I was like, I really have to watch out for this guy or he's going to end up like at the shelter, you know? And I was like, I have to take care of him. And when we ended, I took the dog with me. He was my dog. And I was like, life is just really not going the right way for me. And I got this dog now. What am I going to do? And I went to work at Equinox. And dude, I made so little money.
You made $32K.
32K
in New York City too.
Westchester.
Oh, Westchester, right, but still
doesn't matter. That's where wealthy people go to live outside of New York City. So
it's almost worse.
Yeah. I mean, take anything respectfully that you have in Austin. Like I bought things today, and I was like, this will be $36. It was $22. So to give you an idea of like anywhere else in the comparison to the United States, it's probably 2x for all the same normal things you do. Like a starter home where I live is like 1.3, 1.5, and you're going to pay $33,000 on taxes on it.
100%.
So that's Westchester.
Yeah.
And that's where I was living, making $32,000. And what's worse is not only was I making $32,000, but the money I was making, I would all put towards my education. So Equinox would pay for half the certification. I got 12 certifications through the course of that, which meant there was a lot of weeks I was getting a $200 paycheck.
That's insane.
I was living in the middle of a very rough area. My mom literally said the only reason you can live there is because you look the way you do. Like, nobody's gonna mess with you. And I did that, and I had my dog, and I would just work. And the first thing I did when I started even managed to put a little bit of money in my pocket was I took him to daycare. So I would take him to day. So I would go work. I would work from 6. I would work 5, 6, 7. I'd have an 8 o'clock break or like a 7 o'clock break right in there. I'd go drive, pick him up, take him to daycare. And then I'd work again until I cut my last session at 8:30, right before daycare closed at 9 o'clock. And I pick him up at 9 o'clock. And I did that Monday through Thursday. And because I picked up steam at Equinox, so I was getting a lot of clients, which is the good news in all this. So I was really good at this.
Right.
And I was literally working most days. Monday through Thursday, I was working 5 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, maybe with a couple hour breaks in between there. Fridays, I would literally work from 5 to like 5. I'd cut it there. So I'd have a Friday evening, which would be with my dog. And Saturdays, I would work from 6 to 1. And I'd work that straight. I'd just leave him home during that. And I'd take him for a walk. I'd wake up early and take him to do that. And then Sundays, I'd have off.
Yeah.
And so when people are like, like you do so much, you're so active. I'm like, this is so easy now.
So easy compared to what you were doing.
When you're making $32,000 and you're working like that, dude. I mean, my second year at Equinox, I made $80,000.
Wow.
And, I had more certifications, stuff like that. But I was still, at that point, I could afford to have somebody at least pick him up and take him to daycare, which meant I could work that extra hour. And I got smarter. That was the biggest thing in all this, is that I took the opportunity every time to grow as much as I could. Like, I realized very quickly, like, if I pay the dog walker $30 to pick him up and take him to daycare, then I can work that extra hour and make like another $70 for doing that session. Because Equinox was taking the lion's share of it. So I was only making like $50 to $70 an hour. Even with bonus, was probably making 70 something an hour to do the sessions that were like 120.
Yeah.
So,
and with that crazy schedule, didn't you still become Equinox's #1 trainer within a year?
Top 25 in the. I was the #1 trainer at my club, and I was top 25 in the company in 2 years.
That's incredible. With that ridiculous schedule, picking up your dog, making $200 a week.
Yeah,
people don't understand what went into that.
No, and it's also too, bro. Like you're doing certifications. We know when they do certifications, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. So I would do one certification like at least every month or every other month on top of that. So, and there was a period when I only was making $32,000 at Equinox, I bounced. So I would bounce Friday night. So I would work Friday from like 9 to 4 in the morning. And then I would take my dog, go walk back to my dog, take my dog. And then I would go to work at Equinox the next morning. And then I would sleep after that. And I would sleep my Saturday. So I really had like Sunday with him was like our day. So yeah, it was pretty tough.
Did you pretty quickly realize that was what you were meant to be doing?
I was, if I had an influence in my life, I would have realized that right away, because I would just look at this kid and been like, yo, dude, this is what you should do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's two things I wish I could do, dude. I wish I could, you can't think like this. So when I say this is just me being nostalgic. I don't have this thought pattern pervasively, but if you're asking me to look back at the past and what I would say to myself, there's two things. The first thing I would say is I put my arms around me and just like be like, dude, you're doing great. Or I would give myself a hug, because there's a kid who was like really hurting, like with how he saw himself, body dysmorphia, and just even a perspective on himself. And the other thing that I would do is I would definitely be like, dude, this is what you're meant to do. Like all in on this. And I kind of knew it. It's funny, when I first, right after my MBA, I was talking about doing like a blog. It was before like Instagram and YouTube was around. And I was thinking about doing something online, like what I do now. And I didn't do it, dude. And again, you can't think like this. I think about it every once in a blue moon, but I'm like, God damn, I'd be so rich if I had just done this like, 10 years ago. Like, because I was one of the first people thinking about, oh, let's do something online to do it. But I didn't. So, and I actually was really, really skeptical about doing Instagram, because what happened is I went to a boutique studio and I started making more money. And then after about 2 years or so, I was making the kind of money that like somebody who was specialized in a field like neurology or something, or anesthesiology, would make as a doctor. And then I was like, everybody's like, get on Instagram. I'm like, what for? And then COVID hit, and I had plenty of money in the bank, but I wasn't working. And I was like, the kind of person I am, I'm like, this is never going to happen to me again. And when I got out of COVID, I started doing Instagram right away. And that's like kind of how we got here.
Let's take a minute to talk about some of the sponsors and brands who support the show.
Who are you thinking?
Perennial Pastures, another regenerative farm out of San Diego. Our experience with Kevin Munoz, the owner, we had him on the show, a young first-generation rancher who's really empowered by this movement of regenerative agriculture and really wants to be a leader in the space. I think our conversation with him was so insightful, just in terms of how mission-focused he is and how he really thinks about his farm as a business and wanting it to be here 50, 100 years down the road, even though he's just the first generation of it. And I think just being able to spend time with him out in San Diego was kind of the perfect indication of that, where we got to go have a meal with him at his house, hang out with his wife and kids. Like, what an amazing person. And I think his mission focus around raising really high quality beef and restoring nutrients to the soil is just one of those rare missions that I think everyone can get around.
Yeah, he has such a commitment to really feeding the local community in San Diego, in the San Diego County first and foremost, but he's also passionate about feeding the community around the country. So I know they've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources to being able to order beef in bulk on their website. So I know that they now offer quarter, half, whole cows directly off the website. They have that great ancestral blend ground beef product. So it actually has organ grinds mixed into the ground beef. So you're getting the benefits of like an ounce or so of organ meat, but because it's in the ground beef, you really can't taste it at all. And I think to your point, Harry, just another amazing person. You know, Kev was someone that he was following a paleo diet in college and started realizing, wow, when I nourish my body with real foods, I feel amazing. Had a really successful stint in tech, but realized that there was just something else that he was passionate about. So he's one of those rare cases where, you know, he put his money where his mouth is, and he's a first generation farmer, just, you know, bootstrapping this thing, raising money, and just so passionate about feeding the community. Just an amazing guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for listening. Now we're going to go back to the show.
Yeah. And I think we were saying off camera, we listened to a show that you were on in July.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned, you know, things are going really well. I'm up to 30,000 Instagram followers.
That's what
that was in
happened.
July.
Yes.
Now you're at 200,000.
Yeah.
So the velocity's been insane.
So it's so funny because it took me 2 years to get to 10,000. And that was in June. I got to 2,000. And then in July, I was at 30,000. And then now I'm at 200,000.
Yeah.
I'm about to hit 201,000. I pretty much go up every, I don't want to sound cocky when I say this, but most days I go up 100 to, you know, there's slower days, but on average, I'd say the average day is like 150 followers. So every day.
What sort of messages seem to be landing the most? Like now that you're like pretty established in how you put those videos together?
You know, I always challenge myself to how to push it and to grow it. So I'm trying to think about how do I get simpler? You know, like I'm going to do a segment where I'm shooting and I'm just like picking out items at the grocery store. Like here's what I'd get at Costco, and just feature those items rather than talk about each item. And we just bought a house and I'm having the garage gym built out. I already know what I'm getting for equipment. I've already reached out to companies, and I'm going to do some videos where I like talk through why I'm doing the exercise and what I think it's useful and like the techniques I use with clients and stuff like that. So I know it's going to sound ridiculous. I don't focus on what people resonate. That's good. But I really focus on getting the messages that I want to get out there. Like there's some things that people like, I know like people want to hear certain things and messages. You know, like collagen is really big right now. And I know people want to like push for that, but like, I don't do whatever's trending. I do what I really feel like is going to help people. My kind of life code at this point, and when I say this again, remember like the background and stuff like this, like I really feel like I live in the Matrix now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I'm driving a car with a refrigerator. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like I'm living in this house in Westchester that's like 3,400 square feet with 1.1 acres. You know what I mean? Like, it's bonkers. But so I really like, so when I tell you, like, I really try to think about, one, will this help people, and will I get compensated for it?
Yeah.
And that's my code. If it doesn't help people, I'm not going to do it. So if somebody said, hey, Jake, here's $1 million to push this supplement that's crap, I would not do it. If somebody said, Jake, here's $10 million to push this supplement that is good and will help people, but there's 10 other like it on the market, I'd be like, give me the money. Right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, because when I scroll through your Instagram, I'm like, video after video, I'm like providing value. And especially in today's age of like alternative health, there's so much extremism, TikTok,
dude.
People with their shirts off, eating bull testicles, like the craziest shit.
Yes.
But a good example of how I would view you is like, my dad is in relatively good shape. He's trying to figure out how to clean up the diet, things like that. I would send him your Instagram because I'm like, you're giving him practical tips that he'll actually be able to incorporate and get into the shape that he wants to be in.
The thing is that I'm not looking for the cyborgs,
No.
right? I'm a cyborg at this point.
Yeah.
Like I can sit down. I went to Whataburger last night and I had half a burger, and then I peeled off the burger and I ate the rest of the patty, and I had 4 sips of a Dr. Pepper milkshake, 4 sips. I had 5 French fries, and I threw the rest of it out. That takes extreme discipline, because that Dr. Pepper milkshake
100%.
was really good. And I don't think most people are like that. And I know I'm saying I have such great, but that's the reality. Is like most people, once you're there, you're like all in, or you either have to not dip your foot in the pond at all, or either you're jumping in. And I can dip my foot into the pond and walk away. And that's what so I'm one of the cyborgs because of that reason. So I'm not teaching. Those people don't need to come to me. I'm trying to teach the people of like, hey, how do you progress this and how do you move forward? How do you start your journey? Or if you're really on the extreme end, like you're Brian Mazza, but like you're an amazing runner, but like, hey, you have 2 kids and you have a real life. How do we still edge things forward? I'm meant for the people who have real lives.
How do you think about just coaching people through the internet and giving them really practical advice through the internet? because a lot of people are just looking for that, like, hey, I'm trying to get off the couch and just like lose 10 pounds.
Yes.
Right.
So how do I work with my clients, or how would I go?
Just like what advice do you give to the people who are just sitting there, like, just trying to get started, form habits?
I'll plug myself
right
shamelessly by answering how I would work with my clients, and then you need the other.
Yeah, I love it.
So if somebody comes to me, the first thing I do is I get all the quantitative data, like age, weight, height, all that information. I want to have them get blood work. And then on top of it, I'm going to ask them food preferences, and then I'm going to help them build out a template diet. I'm going to give them a calorie goal, a protein goal, a fiber goal, and then I'm going to communicate with them daily and just make sure there's adherence. And if they're dedicated, we're going to knock it the frick out of the park. It's just going to right out of there. What advice I would give to everyday people is, I really think the most important thing is go find something you enjoy doing. And nutrition is more important than exercise to looking and being the best shape of your life. However, getting involved in exercise leads to people following their diet, because for most of us, the reason that we even pay attention to what we eat is because we went to the gym or we started to enjoy doing something. So I encourage people to almost treat it like dating. Like if you were with somebody and, like, let's say you met somebody in college and you had lackluster sex and the communication was okay, and you were kind of like, your friends and family were like, this doesn't seem to much. You guys should break up.
Yeah.
And then you should go look in the world. Now, if you meet somebody and you have amazing chemistry, and there's just, no matter when you argue, even if you argue, you get on FaceTime and you're like, oh, damn it, I love this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the person. It's the same thing with exercise. If you don't love what you do, go out there and look. Try Rumble Boxing. Try Soul Cycle. Try weight training. Try Olympic lifting. Try CrossFit. Try this, that. Go and do Zumba, Pilates. There's a big world out there.
Right.
See if you can follow, because getting active will probably propel you to make other changes. That's what happened to me. I was a kid. I went to the YMCA. I started lifting weights, and suddenly I'm no longer having ice cream every night before bed.
Yeah.
And I'm suddenly starting to think about like how much protein I'm eating and getting consistent about it. Right.
So you're such good advice.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're big on picking the things that your clients really enjoy. You're not like, oh, bodybuilding versus CrossFit
I
versus
could care less.
Pick the things you love to do.
Unless my client had a specific goal and they said, hey, I want to grow my ass. Okay, well, if you want to grow your glutes, group fitness is not the best way to do that. If you want to get this crazy ass, and not even huge, you got to understand, to build muscle, you have to have dedicated focus about doing it. It has to be very much like a part-time job. Like you have to be like, I'm going to do 8 sets on Monday. They're going to be very challenging. And then on Thursday, or Friday, I'm going to do another 8 sets, and they've got to be very challenging. Like you have to do correct amount of volume with a lot of intensity, like near the brink. And that will change your perspective on like how hard a set is. But like you have to start with like very concentrated effort, thoughtful, intentional effort, and the correct amount of volume, right? But outside of that, if you're just saying like, hey, Jake, what should I do? I'd be like, look, in an ideal world, try to get a couple hours of some sort of resistance training. That could be anywhere from the realm of Pilates to berries to weight training. And like, let's get your heart rate into like zone 2 cardio.
Yeah.
110 to about 130 beats per minute. And that could be done even walking on an incline or a brisk jog, or maybe even doing like a CrossFit class.
Yeah. I know that you're a wild salmon guy. With a client, do you care about chicken versus beef, steak, bison? Are you more so like, hey, let's just pick the food groups that you really like, and as long as you're prioritizing protein and fat, you're good?
Great question. So when you talk about it, I'm going to say something, and I know like people get controversial about this stuff. Food has like become like a religion in this country.
Definitely.
But calories is king. And people will push back on me and be like, that's such a basic understanding. Listen, 72% of America is overweight. So first and foremost, at like a very large level, if we can get people to not be overweight, being overweight is the number one correlation with heart disease. Being overweight, obesity is the number one correlation with all symptoms cancer, meaning all forms of cancer. Obesity is the number one correlation with diabetes. Obesity is the number one correlation with erectile dysfunction. Obesity is the number one correlation with infertility. So we fix a lot of problems by somebody not being overweight. And the way to do that is by eating less. Now, one of the ways you could eat less is by picking more nutritious, less processed food. That's easier to discern how much you're eating. But my point is the portions that you're eating are number one. Then 2, I start thinking about the macros. Like, does this food have protein? Does it have something that's actually going to benefit your composition? And then very much nutrient selection. So it depends on really where people are, because remember, people are at different places in their journey. I get people all the time. They're like, oh, this food's semi-processed. And I go look at their picture and I'm like, dude, you are like 27% body fat.
Yeah.
What are we talking about
insane.
here? Like, stop. Don't give anybody advice. Like, go look in the mirror, fix it, and then like you can talk about it after you've done it. But if you can't sustain something, you can't do it. So I think portions is really important. I think focusing on certain macros, and then quality of food, and definitely salmon is incredible omega-3 fatty acids and an excellent option. Beef has its time and place. I mean, like, it's highly nutrient dense. You want to make sure that you're having the right portions of these things, right? So if you told me like, what's more, let me put it this way. If you go to a McDonald's and you say, hey, I want a cheeseburger, and they go, do you want fries with that? Think about when you pick out your meal, you should be having a protein. That could be beef, that could be salmon, that could be chicken. And then you have fruits and vegetables. From there, what you add on, that's your fries.
Right.
That's your add-on. So you want your core diet to be protein, fruit, and vegetables. And then from there, are you having dairy with it, like raw dairy? Are you having an avocado with it?
Yep.
Those sort of things that you add. I know avocado is a fruit, but it's also a fat, right? Are you adding olive oil to it? Those sort of things. So think about your core really is protein, fruit, and vegetables.
How do you coach people through thinking through the caloric framework without them becoming a slave to being a calorie counter?
Yeah.
Because that's such a big problem, right? Like,
so you know what the thing you got to accept is sometimes you got to go backwards to go forwards. And if you don't have a problem with what your body fat is, then you're already an intuitive calorie counter.
Right.
You're already doing it. Like we were just talking about Brian's diet, and Brian never had to change anything. What his diet right now is he's not eating snacks. And he's dropping body fat because it just works for him. But most people aren't in that. So some of people are going to have to occasionally use a food scale. You know, if you don't know what 6 ounces is, you're going to have to learn some way or another. And that might mean for a moment, you're going to have to be a slave to calorie counting or figuring it out. And that might be just a time and a place, but that happens all the time, dude. Like if you want to go to France and you want to speak French, like you're going to have to be a slave to Rosetta Stone for a few months, or you're gonna have to be a slave to a tutor for a few months, or you're gonna have to take a college class. And like, do you really want to go back? I took Italian in college. Do you want to go back and take 2 semesters of foreign language?
no, thanks.
No. Did you enjoy? Did you do it? You did? Had you taken foreign language?
I took Italian.
Okay, how was it?
It was all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not great, but
Yeah.
you know.
You're bullshitting me a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
We all had to take that class, and we all hated that class, and it was really, really hard. And I'm being serious. I'm joking with you, but at the same time,
totally.
like that's how it is. If you want to learn a new skill, and if it's not intuitive to you, you have to put in more work.
Before we get into the episode, let's talk about Fawn Bone Broth's carnivore blend.
100%. Yeah. We've been huge fans of bone broth the last few months. It's really fueled our carnivore journey. Bone broth is incredibly nourishing, especially on a carnivore, animal-based, or just any type of diet, to be honest with you. And what's great about Fawn is that they're a very simple, pure product. So their product is just boiled bones, water, salt, and most of their products have spices like turmeric, cayenne, cracked pepper, but they actually just came out with their carnivore broth, which is very simple, chicken bone broth, water, and salt too. So they're eliminating all their spices and just giving you something very pure that won't disrupt the gut.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talk about with the elimination diet is the fact that there's so many things that do actually affect how your body reacts to the food you put in your body. And the fact that they're just doing a pure bone broth with bones and just the minimal ingredients, I think is huge. And the carnivore audience will love this one. Fawn does regenerative bone, so it's really high quality stuff. Go check it out. Use our promo code in the link below.
Yep. Code MAFIA will get you 15% off your first order.
100%.
So
Yeah. One of the things we talk a lot about on the show is like, if you can control prioritizing really good quality protein, and also the second thing, being able to cook your meals,
yes,
good quality fats,
for
oils,
sure,
is huge. But my question for you is, I know you work with a lot of like type A winner clients that are running companies. They're super successful. They probably don't have the liberty to cook their meals maybe as much as we do.
So
yeah.
Great point. And by the way, everything you're saying is correct. And that's why I'm very open to like the cooking your own meals. I tell people like 80% of your diet should be single ingredient foods.
Mhm.
It should be meats that you cook or things like that. And again, if people like, it's like, how many people do I know that are overweight from eating fruit? Not many,
Not many.
right? And most people aren't overweight from eating steak.
Yeah.
And when they are, it's because they went to like Terry Black's, and it's because it was cooked in butter and like just covered in calories, right?
Yeah, and they're getting mac and cheese with
And they're
it
getting
all
mac
this
and
other
cheese.
crap.
So again, these are not realistic problems, but at the same time, most people can't just eat fruit and meat. That's not going to be most people's entire lifestyle. So you want to be just mindful of like, what is somebody going to adhere to? Like I have people all the time, they'll be concerned about whey protein, but you're not concerned about tequila.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like you had 3 tequilas and you're worried about whey protein, you're worried about sucralose. Like tequila is a class A carcinogen, right? Like, let me give you examples of other class A carcinogens. Tanning beds, smoking. So it's not good, right? And by the way, I'm not telling you that I never drink.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a cocktail. I have a bottle of Casa Azul Anejo and a bottle of Casa Azul Reposado right on the counter at my house, right? My girlfriend loves to drink. She loves to. I'm a little bit more of like take an edible and like chill.
Just
but
relax.
Yeah, just relax. But she loves to drink. And I get it. It's part of real life. I would say to you, that's a great strategy to cook your own meals. And that's a huge way to mitigate how many calories you're having, as long as you can exercise portion control. And for clients like mine, they're either utilizing meal prep or they're leveraging themselves in some sort of way. And or learning how to meal prep and doing it in an intelligent way, which means I go out to my grill and I cook a bunch of salmon and I cook a bunch of chicken all at once, or throw it in the stove. I think it's very easy to do like a Sunday kind of meal prep thing. Or the other strategy is, dude, say your wife cooks dinner. Okay. What's your wife making for dinner tonight? She's making salmon. Okay. Can your wife meal prep that? What do you mean? Can your wife make 3 portions of that? So now you have salmon for dinner, you have salmon for lunch the next day, and you have salmon for lunch the next day. And the next night when she cooks steak, can she meal prep 3 days of that? Great. She just has to make extra portions. So I think the concept of meal prep is really cook more than 1 meal at a time. You should never cook 1 meal at a time.
It's such a simple thing, but it's such an impact. Like just have her make more.
Have her make more of dinner.
I don't know why we don't think like that.
So I tell people in that people's minds are blown, but like the way to meal prep is never cook one thing. Like I would never open up and be like, I'm going to cook a single chicken breast right now. No, I would cook 4 chicken breasts. I would take the other 3 chicken breasts and put it in a container. I would be cooking something like green beans. I would take the family size green beans that I made, put the rest in a container, and then I have 3 meals worth of 3 days worth of meals.
You mentioned blood work when we first started talking about nutrition. How do you tie that into people's nutrition plans? Because it seems like the blood work stuff's really picking up steam in terms of people utilizing it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value there.
Okay.
Would just love to dig into that a little bit with you.
Do you think insurance companies are the good guys?
No.
Okay. Right. I don't think anybody like there's very few bipartisan issues in this country. And I truly believe that we can all say the government does a terrible job spending money. I think that's a bipartisan issue.
Definitely.
And I think we can all agree the insurance companies are evil. Okay. Even if it's not Pfizer or the whole thing with COVID, everybody, even before that, was always like, yeah, the insurance guys are not the good guys.
Like, why am I paying these guys?
Yeah, these guys they're ridiculous. And part of what they offer is they offer you to get your lab work done twice a year. Why are they doing that? Is that because they're altruistic, because they're nice people? No, it's because they want to know if there's a problem with you sooner so that they can prevent a bigger issue and they can save themselves money. They are allowing you to get your blood work done twice a year because it will actually save them money by catching an issue earlier, because an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, right? So I think first and foremost, amazing that more people are getting to blood work. I think everybody should be doing it. If you're 25 years old, you should be getting your labs done once a year. If you're 30 years old, you should be getting your labs done at least once a year, maybe twice, depending on your family history. You're 35, twice a year. You're 40, twice a year. Because you're going to catch things like what's going on with your testosterone. You're going to detect things like your C-reactive protein, your alpha lipoprotein, like these sort of things. You want to have indications of what's going on with your body. And if you're looking to perform better, going in there and seeing where's your potassium at, where's your B12 at, where's your testosterone at, where's your estradiol at. So it really is like a component it doesn't always necessarily tie in with nutrition, but like vitamin D ties in with nutrition. Sodium, potassium, magnesium ties in with nutrition. But the other part that kind of ties in is your endocrine system. And the better your hormones are, the better you're going to partition calories and utilize them better. So it's really also too, like the amount of men that I have conversations with who are 35, 40 years old, who've never heard of what a coronary calcium scan is just scary.
Really?
You know? And so these are things that people should be doing and looking and testing.
I think 99% of people don't even realize that they can get blood work twice a year that's covered by insurance.
They don't. And people, because they know that they get an annual checkup. And so most people will be like, I think it only covers it once a year. No, it doesn't.
Twice.
You go in once on your annual checkup, they do your blood work, and then you can go in a second time. You don't see the doctor. You just go in, you see the nurse, and they take care of your blood work and you walk out.
Right.
Yeah.
what are you seeing in blood work, or where do you try to focus people? You mentioned testosterone and hormones. Is that kind of like the canary in the coal mine place to kind of start, or do you?
No, the first place to start, first and foremost, when you're just talking about if you can get data about a person and how long they're going to live, people talk about BMI. We talk about BMI because it's cheap. It's very easy to figure out somebody's BMI. It's based on their height and weight, right? So it's a simplification. But if you were to do a DEXA scan, that would be thousands upon thousands of dollars for each and every person to get a DEXA scan. You know what you guys know familiar with DEXA scan?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's your body fat, and it's very, very precisioned in on what your body fat is, what your weight is, all this stuff. So BMI or DEXA scan, very, very important. And that's going to correlate because, again, if you're overweight, you're at increased risk for the number one cause of death, which is heart disease, the second leading cause of death, which is all symptoms cancer. Number two is VO2 max. And again, we talk a lot about resting heart rate because it's cheap. We can figure out somebody's resting heart rate very easily. VO2 max, thousands of dollars. Again, you can get it if you go not covered through insurance. They call it a stress test when it's done through insurance, but it will figure out your VO2 max as well. But if you do a VO2 max, it's like, I think $300. You can go get your VO2 max tested. I just had it done recently, and my VO2 max was 52, which is like in the superior range of things, which I was very happy as a guy who only walks on incline at zone 2. Like, you know, so
That's a hack.
240 pounds.
that's a hack.
The incline walking is a hack.
It's a hack. It is a hack. It is exactly a biohack. It's one of those things you can do. You can walk on an incline. You can take your conference calls. You can do your work, and you can at the same time drop your resting heart rate, and you can be in zone 2. I mean, I have a 52. That's a superior range. I have people who like run marathons and they have 51s or 56s.
52 is low for 240 pounds.
You mean high?
High. Sorry. Yeah.
It's
really good.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
And you do what? Don't you do? It's like 120 to 150 minutes of zone 2 cardio a week.
I try to do 150 every week, but I'm a human being and I have things going on. Like I had to fly to Austin this week. I still did 40 minutes this morning though of zone 2.
That's killer.
But I did so far this week. I've done 80 minutes of zone 2. I think I can clear out this week. But I try to do 150 minutes of zone 2 every week, and sometimes I only hit 120. And remember, perfection is better. Or pardon me, progress is better than perfection. Doing something is better than doing nothing.
What's your take on cardio in general? Because
let's go back. Can I do one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so number one, the first thing I'm looking at is where's your body fat and your weight, right? Your BMI plus body fat. Because my BMI is 36, which means I'm morbidly obese, except I have like 10% body fat, right?
Yeah, so and that's what DEXA scan is showing.
That's why. But again, not everybody can afford a DEXA. So when people bash BMI, I get why you're bashing BMI, but you need to understand not everybody in America has access to a DEXA scan. Okay.
Right.
Again, remember, some of us are plugged into the matrix, and we need to remember not everybody is.
Yes,
okay.
Right.
The second thing, again, resting heart rate. Again, VO2 max is a deeper understanding, and that's highly correlated to our mortality or our vitality, how long we're going to live for. And then the third thing is I'm really looking at where are things going on with the cholesterol. And cholesterol is more complicated. Total cholesterol, really not that. HDL, really not that important. LDL, we look at LDL, we look at alpha lipoprotein, and we also look at C-active protein. So I'm just trying to get a total look at lipids, triglycerides, things like that. Now, those have really high correlation to mortality.
Love it. We were talking about cardio.
Yes.
Your take on cardio.
Yeah.
I think walking is one of the most underrated things that people kind of just overlook.
Yes.
As a way for people to get in shape. It's such an easy place to start, but people would just overlook it, think they need to go pound the pavement, run, you know, a bunch of miles a week, exhaust themselves.
Yes.
It's like, slow down, walk. So I'm just curious to get your take on that.
Walk fast.
Yeah.
Walk fast. You don't have to run.
Right.
Walk fast. Walk at a pace that'll get you to like 110, or walk up a hill, walk up a mountain, right? Climb up something with altitude. And you will see your heart rate, and just try to get your heart rate above 110. Try to keep your heart rate between that. Like I try to keep my heart rate around 120, somewhere between that 110 and 130 zone. And that is going to radically reduce your resting heart rate, and it's going to increase your VO2 max. It's so incredibly potent. There's very few people that I need to even have to jog lightly that can stay in zone 2. You'll be surprised how slow you're jogging, even if you get a really athletic guy and staying in zone 2.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very humbling on the ego too, when you're like, Like, fuck, normally I run like 9-minute miles,
Yeah.
8-minute miles, and I'm like at 11:30, but my heart rate's 135. It
Yep.
really tests you.
Yeah. And then if it's 135, you should really actually be doing a 12-minute mile.
Yeah, you should.
Right?
You need to drop even
You
more.
need to drop even more. And you just need to understand that you're not doing this for ego. It's not about performance. You're doing this for health. And that's the only reason really to do cardio, in my opinion, unless you have a sports specific or you have like a, like a personal motivation to run, or you're an Instagram influencer or something like that. Otherwise, you're just doing cardio for health. You're not going to outrun the calories you eat, guys.
Right.
It's just not happening.
So you're prioritizing nutrition ahead of physical activity, but also the interrelationship there is key.
So remember what I said. If I said you had to give somebody who's a complete couch potato, overweight, say you've got a guy in front of me, he's 250 pounds. He doesn't quite know what to do with his career. He's divorced or single his whole life. First thing I would say to him is get up, get moving. Because I think that thought about does thought beget action or action beget thought, I think you have to take a step. And it's a very clear actionable to start being active. Like, whereas you say to somebody, you need to eat a perfect diet. Good luck, dude.
Dude.
I mean, I don't know. I know a handful of people in my life who are perfect dieters, and like even people who are in really good shape. Most of them have moments in their life where they're like looking forward to some sort of like bereavement or like enjoying something for a minute.
Right.
So I'd say, but I would say if you're talking about at an elite level, you cannot perform highly without nutrition.
Yeah.
And you will never be able to outrun a bad diet. So nutrition is king, but I think if you're trying to look for a place to start, by get moving.
Yeah.
Mhm. What I love about you though is that you crank miles though too, because you hate it. I'd
Yeah.
love to unpack that a little bit, because I've heard you say that before. You're like, I run because I don't like to run. Right?
Yes.
It's humbling as hell.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, you're kind of calling me out here a minute. It's been a couple months since I've like dropped myself off and made myself run like 5 miles. I think it's very important to get out there and run though, because I think it's very important to do things that you don't like to do. My girlfriend hates glute bridges. She hates them. And she's very successful. And I tell her there's no around, there's only through.
Yep.
And so she's like, why do you push me to do this? Like, you usually give alternatives to people all the time. Like 70 exercises. I was like, because I just want to see her triumph through this.
I love you. That's why I'm having you do it. Right?
Yes.
Because I know this is what you need.
Yes. And I also know too, like with her, in all honesty, like, again, if you're a good trainer, you can always pick another thing. I'm a little past just being a trainer at this point, but like, even with what I do, like, could I tell you 5 things that are hinge patterns, like a deadlift, like if you can't do a deadlift, a Romanian deadlift, a stiff leg deadlift? Can I give you rounded back extensions? Yes. But the reality is with her, she builds muscle very easily, and she doesn't want to get developed traps. So when we do that, we're really limited to movements like good mornings, rounded back extensions, glute bridges. So that's why specifically I push her to do it. And out of the exercises that she can have in her toolbox, we've got enough squats, we've got enough bilateral, which means like lunging patterns or split squats. So she needs to do this exercise. But also too, secretly, I just want to see her like take this thing on, and I want her to get to the point where she loves it.
It's really cool.
How important is just putting on muscle in general for people that you work with? Because I know that just like boosts your metabolic rate, like longevity is obviously.
What do you think my resting metabolic rate is?
No idea.
You want to take a shot?
What's the actual metric for it?
I actually had an RMR done. I put a mask on,
no
and I
way.
breathed into it. It actually gave me my real number.
Really?
Okay, so if I did an in-body, and those are inaccurate, they base it off height and weight. It said I had 3,600 calorie a day RMR. What do you think it really is?
Like 4,000?
4,400.
That's insane.
That's
That's ridiculous.
So
That's so many calories.
That's so many calories.
Once you put on that much muscle, it's like you're playing that game of having to sustain it, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
that's
Well,
nuts.
here's the good news about that. So I think you asked me 2 questions. How important is it and how to sustain? Let me ask this sustain question because it's fun. So here's what we know. Muscle is hard to achieve, but it's relatively cheap to maintain, at least in terms of exercising. So if you were to try to say, Jake, how can I build a really great set of pecs? Okay. You're going to go to the gym. You're going to do 3 exercises. You're going to warm up. Do your warm-up sets, finish out your warm-up sets. Now you're going to pick 3 exercises that you feel. Don't fuck around with a ton of, can I swear?
Yeah.
Don't fuck around. I've been avoiding swearing this whole time. So
You should have heard Brian yesterday.
Okay, good.
You're
Good. Don't fuck around with like these insta-fat exercises or these things that you only kind of feel. Pick 3 exercises that really fucking burn or you really get a pump from, and then do 3 sets of each and do each one very near to failure where you have to push yourself. Like you have to grow a pair of balls and like push through it. Okay. Now, on each of those exercises, make sure you stretch. We're talking about the pecs here. So at the bottom, you feel a deep stretch in your pec and then control it on the way down and press through. Do 3 sets of 3 exercises, so 9 sets total. Do that on a Monday, 72 to 96 hours later, come back and do it again. Do that twice a week with that 72 to 96 hour a week break and do that on repeat and you will grow a chest as long as the nutrition's there behind it. Okay. And you have to feel the muscle while you're doing it. You have to stretch it. Muscles are very, very responsive to the stretching portion of the lift. That bottom part we feel back. If you're doing shallow presses, meaning you're going so low and you're not feeling your pecs at all, it's not going to work. So do that. Your chest will grow. Now, Jake, now having achieved it, I now have this great set of pecs. How do I maintain it? Well, everything that we seem to have in the literature is closer to you have to do 5 sets a week. That same way, total, challenging, and you'll maintain it. My point in saying this is it's much easier to maintain muscle than it is to build it. It requires way less work. It actually looks like it is about 25% the stimulus necessary to maintain it as it is to build it. So it's really not that difficult for me to maintain. Yeah. It is very difficult for me to continue to grow.
So if you're in your 20s or 30s, male in your 20s or 30s, and you want to have a good physique for a long time, it's like put in the work now so you can then just be on
because you're also playing with fire with your hormones. Right. You really are. So now's the time to really attack it. And I really do say that because when you get in your 40s, you really need TRT if you're going to continue to build muscle. And I would even say to you, if you want to continue to build muscle your entire life, you do it when you're younger. And then as you get older, once your testosterone, if it does start to dip down, not everybody does, but almost everybody does, get on TRT and you can continue to build muscle. You know, I would tell you, a lot of these people pretend that they're natural on Instagram. A lot of them are fake, but I will also tell you that a lot of these guys, like they don't understand like the compounding of doing something for 20 years. And when you do something for 20 years, you're going to get pretty freaking jacked off.
It seems like a lot of it comes back to the intensity that people fuck up. Like you were saying, simple, pick your 3 exercises, whether it's like incline barbell bench, flies, whatever the third thing is.
But I'd even argue with you about flies. Like I tell you probably flies should be somewhere around 25% of the volume.
So not as many flies.
Not as many flies because they're nowhere near as strenuous. When you look at it, the only part that's really difficult in the fly is the very bottom portion, that stretch portion, which I said is crucial. But if you said to me like, Jake, here's my 6 exercises, it would probably look like something like this. Some sort of press. It could be a machine. It could be a barbell. It could be an incline, probably like a flat, and then some degree of incline, some degree of decline, even though they all pretty much do the same thing, but hitting different angles, right? And I would probably have 4 to 5 of those exercises be presses or dips, something like that, and only 2 of them to be 1 to 2 of them being flies.
Dude, incline bench is brutal.
Brutal. Very effective. Going to get your anterior delt as well. Very good at getting the pec minor, and then really loading like heavy flat press or really loading heavy decline press. Very effective for doing it.
So twice a week, 9 sets. To build, and then to maintain 5 sets total after that.
A week.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't ever recommend to anybody they do that. But I'm telling you, if you have a slow week and you're like, oh man, I don't have any time to work out this week. Dude, you have 20 minutes. Go downstairs, do the 5 sets, come back upstairs. You're going to at least preserve your muscle and push yourself. And when I push myself, I mean, my eyes look like they're going to bulge out of my head when I'm lifting some of this stuff. Like I will pick a weight and I will be like, okay, there's 5 plates on this hack squat. And if I die, I die. Right. And I have understand when I say that. Some new person killed after listening to influencer podcast. I'm not telling you
We're
if
not
you've never done 5.
guys.
I'm not telling
Disclaimer.
you. Disclaimer. Listen, I'm saying to you, if last week you did 3 plates, you can do 3 plates in a 2.5 on each side and get that extra 5 pounds on the bar. That's what I'm telling you. You can do that. Or if last week you did, say you had 225 in the bar and you got 7 reps, 7 reps, 7 reps. This time you can do 8 reps, 7 reps, 7 reps, right? Or this time you can put 230 in the bar and get 7 reps, 7 reps, 7 reps. It's pretty unlikely that you can't very gradually push yourself a little bit further in time.
What's the craziest shit you've done in the gym? Like one of the things I love doing is just picking 2 exercises and just rotating until I'm like just totally tapped on like 2 things.
So I'm past that kind of like, I really am looking for what am I going to get out of this? How am I going to activate myself? So crazy stuff that I've done in the gym, like something to me that's crazy that people do is Murph. Right. Like I just, to me, that I'm just like, okay, great. You're going to get tennis elbow now. Like, cool. Awesome. Cool. And by the way, I'm not, I understand what it's in memory of, and I appreciate what people want to go. And sometimes you just feel like I've been a bad boy. Please let me punish myself. But like, I'm very much like, how do I push myself as close to the brink as I can? And if you look at it from that perspective, like it's every time I go to the gym, like I'm really pushing myself very, very hard.
Yeah. So you've nailed the intensity. What I also think is crazy about you is you were talking about this. You're a humble guy, but you're like, I'm basically a cyborg when it comes to nutrition.
Yes.
I think it's insane that you can go to Whataburger and you're so dialed in where you're like, half the burger, 5 fries, 3 sips of a milkshake, I'm good. How do you get to that point? Which I know is a stupid question, but
no, it's a real
impressive.
question. It's discipline is a muscle and you grow it. But the other thing you have to walk in saying is, and I think this is part of where I come from, is can I be real with you?
Yeah.
Pull back the veil a little bit. Having grown up in an environment which was not always safe, and that was also too like there wasn't all the basic needs met. Like I never went to a dentist as a kid. I did not have health insurance. I wasn't abused. Nobody ever hurt me, you know. But I would say to you that I almost find I don't judge. I'm a libertarian. If you don't hurt dogs or kids, I'm not judging you when I say this. But in terms of myself, like I find like I could never be a drug addict because, and I find it disgusting. And I don't mean in the sense of where I don't have empathy for people's situation. I mean, for me, myself, I could never do that. I could never sabotage myself that way. In the same way, if my girlfriend's like, do you want to watch The Whale? And I'm like, no, I don't want to cry tonight. I'm like, I'm good. I've cried enough in my life. Like, I'm good. Like, let's watch something else. I don't create drama in my life. And so I have no desire to be overweight. I have no desire to have a gambling problem. I meet people and they're so wealthy and they're driving a RAV4 because they're so consumed with stuffing their brokerage account. And I'm like, dude, you could get like pancreatic cancer tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to kind of like, maybe you're not into cars and then I get it. But I mean, if you're into cars, why don't you go buy the car, dude? Like, you know what I mean? Like what's another $1 million going to do for you? You know, I'm very adverse to that mentality. And that's what I mean when I find that stuff disgusting, is in the sense of where I am just so far removed from it. And it's the same thing where when I go to Whataburger, like half a burger is enough, dude.
Yeah.
Like I tasted what the Dr. Pepper milkshake tasted like. I tasted what the butter. Why do I need the entire thing? And it's actually funny. Like if you even talk to like my girlfriend said this, we went on some trip. We went to some all-inclusive thing in Antigua, and I spoke at an event in Antigua, and then I was at some all-inclusive resort afterwards. And she goes, you know, you have not thrown out a single thing at buffet. And the same way I find that stuff, I find that disgusting when people like pull up the plate and then they throw it out. I'm like, an animal was sacrificed for that. Something died for this. You know what I mean? Like there's people all over the planet who are like 4 million children a year die of starvation. Like, so when I make decisions, I really am, like she said, like you like luxury things. Like, don't get me wrong. I have a Prada backpack out there. I have a real Louis Vuitton bag. You know what I mean? Like I like nice things, but I'm not gluttonous. And so that's what I think really it is just understanding like this was good and I don't need all of it.
So it's like a difference between enjoyment of the nicer things than gluttony.
Yes. And that's how I view that is. It's like, look, you can have a slice of pizza with your family. Like it's Friday night and your kids are ordering pizza. You don't have to be a douche and be like, I can't eat pizza with you kids. But you also don't need to go back downstairs in the middle of the night and house the entire rest of the box. One slice is enough.
Yes.
You know what it tastes like. You're going to know what it tastes like again. Like I tell sometimes my clients, I'm like, you suffer from having a nice life.
Right.
like they're like, well, I was out to dinner. Yeah, bro, you're going to be out to dinner twice next week too.
Yeah.
Like, calm down.
There's enough enjoyment to go around.
Yeah, there's enough. And I think that's really just an understanding of like when I've hit my baseline, I can like move on from it.
Have you found yourself as you've gotten more successful, your relationship with money and just like this like abundance mindset, has that been something that has changed as you've gotten more successful, or something that you kind of always had, even when you were in your 20s, you know, working that trading job that you had?
What, in terms of like abundance mindset, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, just like, you know, liking nicer things and like being able to like treat yourself and enjoy these nice things. Cause I just think a lot of people, you know, if you're kind of not successful yet, you like almost like punish yourself in some ways and like don't allow yourself to have certain things.
So here's what I think it's important to do. I think it's important to look at your life and say what actually brings you happiness. Because at some point, most people, and the statistics so outdated because of COVID and inflation, but I remember at one point there was like, if you make more than $120,000 a year, you're no happier. I'm sure that's changed. I'm sure now, like especially where I live in New York, like the poverty line is like $100,000. And I know that sounds crazy, but that really is what the poverty line is in New York.
That's
So
wild.
it's wild.
You can't get anything for 100K in New York. Sorry to cut you off. It's insane.
I mean, you can't get
I lived in the
dinner.
Upper East Side for 3 years prior to moving here. You can't
yeah.
get shit for 100K.
Yeah, dude, yeah. I mean, no. So, but I think if I looked at my life and some of the things I bought in the last years, I will tell you that my dog brings me more fulfillment than them.
Mhm.
I really like my car. I'm really into cars. If I hadn't just bought a house, I would definitely, if I was single, I'm super committed to my girlfriend, love her to death. She's my person, but I would have a Porsche and a heartbeat. All right. Instead of a house, I would be like living in a luxury apartment and have like a Turbo S, but I don't. I have her. So, but
Once you hit 1 million Instagram followers.
that's it. I'll get the Porsche.
You get the
I'll get the
Porsche.
Porsche. By the way, I'm still gonna get the Porsche.
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah.
But I recognize what I like, and I like cars, and I like my dog, and I like my girlfriend.
Mm.
A lot of the other stuff, like, am I glad I have it? Yeah, it's just stuff though, dude.
Yeah.
And would I still have it? Yeah, I would still have it. I'm never gonna have a normal backpack again. I would want to have a Prada backpack if I'm gonna bother to have a backpack.
Mm.
But I also know, like, when buying a house and like renovations and stuff like this, and buying new appliances, I'm probably not gonna buy the season's Montclair jacket.
Right.
And like that's part of growing up, I guess. So
Yeah.
for now,
Yeah.
to be continued.
So you've identified the things that you like. You treat yourself. It's not gluttonous. You're just like, hey, these are the things that I
Yes.
really enjoy.
But by the way, that's
Yeah.
back to the gluttonous thing. Like
Yeah.
if I was sitting here and I was like killing myself to get another Montclair jacket and keep up the house and trying to impress somebody, instead of just saying like, oh, for right now, I won't get this season's, you know, I saw this super cool dark green one and I'm like, can't get it right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's gluttony even itself. Like just this need to like keep up with people and like what everybody's doing. Like I'm the least Instagram person that you're going to meet who's an Instagram person, right? Like
Yeah.
I use the word influencer and it's not a term I really use. Like I don't really see myself. 2018, I posted twice on Instagram. In 2019, I posted once on Instagram. They were all my dog.
Yeah.
That's the only
That was
thing
it.
I posted.
And then you just went all in.
Yeah.
And now you have 200,000 Instagram followers,
Yes.
growing in
Yep.
an insane clip.
Yeah.
One of the last things I wanted to ask you to kind of land the plane on the combo. It's amazing just hearing the story, seeing where you are now, but all the layers to get to where you are, whether it's like, tougher childhood upbringing,
Yeah.
fitting a square peg in a round hole, going to business school, working a finance
Yeah.
job, getting fired from that
Horrible.
job, 35K a year to 80K a year, and like building
Yeah.
this whole thing out,
Yeah. It's doubled every year for 6 years.
which is that's amazing.
Yeah.
What was the period for you where you kind of like picked your head up and you were like, either like this is working or I'm actually really proud of myself too for how far I've come?
The girlfriend I'm referring to is the girlfriend who dumped me all
Mm.
those years ago. She actually reached out to me and was like, hey, like I made a mistake all those years ago. And you could look at it two ways. I joke around and I was like, well, yeah, it's easy to love me now, but I don't really mean that. Like if I hadn't thought that I'd made mistakes when we were younger, I wouldn't have been open to it. When people like, I remember my sister said something mean about her after we broke up and I go, Lauren, I love you, but really it's my fault.
Mhm.
And I really felt that way. I felt like it was
Yeah.
like 70% my fault when we broke up. So I think when she came back into my life and then I think it was just like, I just really have like a dream life. I remember my dad on his second bottle of wine, throwing out my action figures in front of me.
Yeah.
I remember driving a bike to McDonald's to work my first job. I remember when I got older, riding a bike, my college job, I would ride a bike to go work a forklift at Dale Tile. And, I think I was making $14 an hour or something. It was a good pay for factory around
Yeah.
there. But, so, my life is really like a dream. And when people are like, I tell people occasionally when people are like upset about something or something like that, I'm like, you just really, and even if your life at this moment is not a dream, I would just tell you, like, really take a look around, dude, and be thankful.
Mm.
Because, go look at what it's like in China. Go look what it's like in India. You are probably very, very fortunate.
Mhm.
And just take a moment and own that. And then understand, like, okay, if something sucks, just put your nose down and get to work.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such good perspective. I think people forget that we live in this amazing country
Oh
with
my
so many
God.
luxuries. I mean, you can get food delivered to your
Oh
door.
my God, dude. I just really honestly feel like my life, like it just came full circle, and I'm so thankful. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I never have fights with people or there are never moments that I have stressful days, but if my income got cut in half, I'd still be like, oh wow, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
And if I, like I just really honestly, I think the biggest thing is that I learned, and I was always like 18-inch biceps, 20-inch biceps, $500,000 a year, like, like Range Rover, peanut butter interior. I really can tell you now, like, yeah, okay, that's all good. And like, it's very important to have meaningful relationships, like just people that you truly enjoy spending time with. Like, probably the most important decisions you make are like who you end up marrying or whether you choose to have kids or not. And like the people you choose to spend time with. Like, Brian and I chill and like we just have a great time. And like this was my day. Like we flew to Austin and we hung out as like friends. And like my clients that I see all day, I spend my day with like, guys who like crush it and kill businesses and like who care about me and who talk about me. And I've had guys who are jerks and I'm just like, all right, well, peace.
Yeah.
Good luck with everything. Cause I don't want to spend my time. If you don't care about me, if I'm just, if it's just an exchange of like check for whatever, I'm still going to take care of you. I'm still going to get you to point A, point B. But if we're actually invested in each other, like, those are the people I want to spend my time with.
That's amazing, man. Such good perspective. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, like, I really appreciate that the sentiment there. It's like the people that you spend your time with is so important.
It is.
And just hearing like you and Brian and you guys just spending the day together, getting to come down here and hang out. It's like so great.
I mean, look, I know this is not the reality for everybody, but like today we woke up, Brian went for a jog. I did zone 2 cardio. We got like breakfast tacos together. And then we went to Nick Bear's. I shot a podcast with him. Then we got a workout in with him. Then we went to Terry's. Then we came here. And like, this is my job. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, we're closing on a house like in August. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and I can't like, I'll come home and I can't wait to pick up my dog from daycare tomorrow. Like I have a very nice life. I just encourage everybody again, like wherever you're at in life, just first and foremost, be thankful. And because I think 99.9% of you can, unless there's some extreme health issue going on in your life or someone around you is surrounded with something like that. And then number 2, if you want to propel forward, it's just about getting reps in.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's the same thing. Consistency compounds. So like whether it's weight training, whether it's diet, you might be like, oh, I'm really struggling with diet. Listen, the people who succeed at dieting are the people who don't quit.
Yes.
Because you're just going to keep learning. And then you have to do what I talked about is you have to learn lessons. Like you have to learn lessons. Like I had to learn like, okay, I can't sell my time one-on-one anymore. I have to do semi-privates now because I can't, it's not worth it for me to meet no matter what anybody can pay me for 1 hour. It's not worth it anymore. And so you have to learn that lesson and you have to learn like, oh, you know what? I have rosacea and I need to use some sort of tanning before I shoot content because sometimes my face gets really red and just stupid stuff that nobody would think about every time and just continue to learn from your mistakes, whether it's diet, whether it's training, whatever. If you go to the gym and you screw up, like just if like maybe you pick too heavier of a weight, like you're like, oh, I think I can progress this. And you were supposed to get like 8 reps and you failed. Learn that. Don't re-go do it next time. If you get done at the gym and your elbow hurts and you kind of felt your elbow hurting a little bit when you started, don't do that next time. Learn from your mistakes. And if you want to really leverage yourself, hire yourself a coach because that's the best way. You can do that on both ends of the spectrum. I have a housekeeper. I don't clean up. I don't do it. And so I hired a housekeeper because the same reason I told you that story. When I was at Equinox training, I realized, oh, it's cheaper for me to hire somebody to come walk my dog
100%.
than it is for me to drive back. And like, you got to learn those lessons.
Yeah. A lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes on your journey, a lot of iterations, a lot of learning. And that's why you are where you are now. And it seems like that feeling that you had when you're 28, it's almost like you never forgot that feeling, which gives you such an appreciation for what you have now.
I had somebody who was a good friend of mine. It's actually 2 of my friends in a row. And it was like both of them. And I don't remember, they were both talking to me and they were like, the thing I appreciate you most about you is you have not lost perspective. Oh, it was my friend Vinny who owns Verb. So my friend Vinny at Get Verb, I was talking to him about getting our first house. And he's like, dude, you just have not lost perspective at all. And then I was at dinner with my friend Lane and he goes, dude, you just keep getting more successful and your perspective has not changed at all. And I think that's the thing. You just have to really like remember like how truly lucky you are.
Yeah.
This whole thing can end. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're LeBron James or you're at the cashier register. Like you have good days, you have bad days, but just keep it in perspective.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Powerful, man.
it's a perfect place to end the convo, and I know we got to get you out of here for your flight,
Yeah,
but
I gotta get
just
home.
appreciate you coming in, man. This was great, and really appreciate Brian setting this up.
Yeah,
This
dude.
was
We owe him
awesome.
a
I had a
lot.
great time.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it, Jacob.
Yeah, dude.
Jake.
Really
Cool.
great.